the first solve you did white cross, U2 R prime, and then this. And here you rotated and you wanted to do the D prime move, but you used your index, which I wouldn't do for D moves. You should have done it with your ring finger. Or even better, the situation was something like this, and you could have just immediately done F prime and then rotated, which would have been better. There are two better cross solutions I want to show you. The first one is similar to yours, but so you also start with the green cross edge, but for better finger tricks, you will put it like this, and then D2, white R prime, and then from here you can just do D prime RF, which would have been a very finger trick friendly cross solution. But I would have probably also used this block, because whenever there's a block I really try to use it, and in this case it's not even that hard. So the edge is here, and then you can do U prime, white R, F prime, U prime for this block, and then the other two cross edges are here, which you can finish like that. I noticed you used the table a lot during cross, and that really slowed the solution down, so make sure you use less table, and that will also be easier if you find more finger trickable solutions. After cross, you had blue in front and decided to solve this pair, which was good. And then you saw this pair, and then this one. So those three pairs were all really good. And then for the last pair, you did a Y2 rotation and solved this pair. And because you had a dot here, I would have done Y rotation and then split the pair and then insert to get two edges oriented. You had this OLL and you did the M move like this, but instead you should have just done white R prime R2 and then finished the alg, because that's way faster. Then you had R perm and you did single flick U2s here. You should maybe learn IDO moves, because that's really fast. On your second solve, you did white cross again. You started like this, and then here you should have just inserted this edge like this. But you did a Y2 rotation, and then you did you inserted it with M moves to preserve this edge, but honestly, it wasn't worth it to preserve this edge. You could have just done this, but you did it with M moves. And for M moves, I saw you put this edge on the table and do it like this, but it's better if you use this edge and put it on the table, and then the M move with your pinky like in R prime. Those are the better finger tricks for M moves. On the scramble you should have probably done yellow cross, because it's a lot easier. So you start with blue, red, and then D, white R prime, like that. So that would be the cross solution I would recommend. For the first pair you saw the orange and green. So there was also a free pair, but you looked ahead to this, which is also okay. And then you saw this one, and you paired it up like this, and then you rotated and inserted it. But there are two reasons why you should have rotated first and then solved this pair. So firstly, it's always better to rotate first and not in between, because it's a lot more fluid. And also specifically in this case, you can see that all F12 edges are oriented if you solve it like this, meaning you don't have to rotate at all anymore. Then you solved this free pair. And lastly, this nice F12 case. For the OLL, you solved it with white F moves. That's not the best alg for this OLL, especially if you don't know this white F move finger trick. So the good alg would be this. Finally, you got AA perm, and you actually did a pretty cool execution there. So you did a C rotation and then a wide U prime, and then like this, which is pretty good in my opinion. On your third solve, the cross edges were here, 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 and here. And you started from this angle, and you did that for these two. And then you rotated and did green. And then you looked around the cube to look for the next cross edge. So maybe you didn't even plan the full cross, or you got confused for some other reason, I don't know. But then you rotated and did the orange cross edge. So this execution requires a lot of regroups and rotations. Instead, I want to show a better finger trick for this solution. So it's the same solution, just with a different finger trick. You start from here and you can do this. So as you can see, I do wide moves in my cross solutions a lot. And that's a tip I can give you too. You should start doing wide moves during cross, because that minimizes rotations and regrips. It's probably difficult at first to see when you can do wide moves, so I would recommend watching example solves. For the first pair, you should have definitely solved this free pair first, but you decided to do this one, and you paired it up like this, and then you inserted it. But as I already said in the last solve, it's always better to rotate first, because then the solution is more fluid, especially if other edges are also oriented. So you should have done it like this, and then the next two pairs would have also been rotationless. Next, you solved this pair, so you took it out, rotated, and inserted it. There's a more efficient way to solve in this case. So whenever there's a pair in the diagonal slot like this, you can bring up this slot and then insert the pair and solve it. After that, you solved this pair, so you rotated and solved it like this. For OH, if this pair belongs in the back slot, it's a bit better to solve it like this, but it's not a huge difference. And then for the last pair, you had this pair, which you solved like this, which is the best way to solve this pair. Then you had this OLL and F perm, and you used this arc, which is fine. There would be a decent C OLL for this case, so it's double back anti-soon cancelled into another OLL. But honestly, OLL PLL is also okay in this case. You did white cross again, and you started with green. You did U prime wide R, and then here, instead of doing U prime immediately, you rotated like this, did U prime, and then for red you rotated like this, did R, D2, R2. So for one cross edge you rotated to avoid an F move, and that makes me wonder if you even know how to do F and F prime moves, because in your whole average I didn't see a single one. So in case you don't know, you really have to learn them. It's really important to know them. And F would be with your thumb like this, and F prime with your index. I know this is hard at first and it takes some time to get used to it. If you know F moves, there's a really good and simple solution on white. So U prime, R prime, F, R prime for those three, and then D2, and here you could have planned the red and blue pair in inspection and you could have cancelled into it. You did this as your first pair, which is good. And then you saw this pair, but you rotated for some reason and solved it like this and rotated back. So instead you should have obviously just solved it like this. And also, if you start like this, you should have rotated this way, because then you don't have to do the Y2 rotation afterwards. So what you did was you inserted it here, and then you did a Y2 rotation. From here, the rest of the solve was really good. You did this pair, and then this one, and then you did this OLL-CP, COLL into this U-perm. On your last solve, the cross edges were here, 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 and here, and you put the cube down like this, and then you picked it up like this and did these moves, and then this, and this for the cross. So the solution was fine, but there are better finger tricks again, and also you could have easily planned your first pair, because I saw you had a bit of a pause between cross and first pair. So better finger tricks would have been U prime D at the same time, and then white R prime, D, F prime. As your first pair, you solved this, so you rotated and solved it like this, and then inserted it like this. So that's super inefficient, and from here you could have paired it up like this, and then inserted it. Or there would also be this nice way to solve it, so F move to set up this free pair. Then you solved this, and then this. So that's the same as before. It's slightly better to solve it like this whenever it belongs in a back slot. And then your last pair was this one. And then this OLL into C perm, and you did the MU C perm, which is okay. But I already said that in the first solve, so it's better to put this edge on the table and do M moves like this. And also, I would recommend learning M2 double flicks with ring pinky. There are 3 parts in your solves where I still see a lot of room for improvement. First is inspection. In 4 of your 5 solves, you only inspected for around 4 or 5 seconds, and you pretty much did the first thing you saw. You should definitely use more inspection time to find multiple cross solutions and decide which is best. Also try to inspect the first pair. If it's too difficult to plan the whole first pair, it's also already very helpful if you roughly know where your pieces are. The second thing I think you can improve is pickup time. Your pickup time was half a second on average. I'm sure you can reduce that if you just pay attention to it. Maybe it also helps if you keep your right hand on the timer. Next is cross. The execution of your crosses in this average wasn't the best because you had to regrip and use the table a lot. You can improve this by checking multiple angles to start your cross from and see which one is best. Then you can also use wide moves to avoid L moves and unnecessary regrips. And as I said earlier, it is helpful to watch example solves because then you can see how other people solve the cross. Lastly, I want to mention finger tricks. Your turning is already pretty good, but there are a few things you can improve. As I said, if you're not good at F moves, you should really practice them. So again, F would be with your thumb like this, and F prime with your index like this. Make sure you put your pinky here so the S slice doesn't turn. For M moves, you should also switch to the finger tricks I showed earlier in this video. And IDO U2s are also worth trying, so that means doing a U2 like this, or like this. And I know it's difficult at first to push all the way through. Like, I remember at first I could always only do it this far, but with practice it gets better. I saw you do R moves with your ring finger. Most people do them with pinky, but I think ring R moves are also okay. That's it for this critique. I hope it helps.